Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Tuam, and today I'm going to talk with Roselie. Now I'm waiting for her to join the chat so that we can start our conversation about herself and about modeling. I say hi to everyone. Welcome here. So by any minute she will join us so that we can start our conversation. Yes, there she is. Let me send the request. Hey, how are you doing?
Hello.
Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
That's good. So how's everything with you?
I'm all right, doing pretty decent.
And what's new about vaccination in the US?
Mm, I mean, it's still difficult to get your hands on it.
Yeah, unfortunately, everywhere this is the same story. But I think you guys will receive it much sooner than us in Cyprus, hopefully.
Yeah.
Not, not hopefully, it's unfortunately somehow for us, but for you guys
Yeah.
at least. So, would you please briefly tell us about yourself? I have a series of questions waiting for you, but maybe you can
Mhm.
start from a point.
All right. I have a little list next to me because I have ADHD. So if I don't have some sort of structure, I'll just go off the rails. So I'm I guess into I guess what most people would consider geek culture. I love video games. I love anime. I love fantasy. Um, I'd say that yeah, video games take up a very large portion of my free time, right next to anime and like I've also recently gotten into sewing, so I've been learning how to do that.
And
And I'm
you mentioned about the games. Well, which type of games do you play?
so I play MMOs primarily. They're online games, so think like World of Warcraft. The
I
game
see.
that I play is Final Fantasy 14. It's kind of the competitor for World of Warcraft.
I see.
Yeah.
So you're mostly
Um,
interested in Japanese production, as I understood, even in game industry.
yeah.
I see.
Um, I've been interested in Japanese culture basically since I was a kid and I first got into anime. I started studying Japanese in high school and I actually got to go on a trip to Japan after I graduated.
Oh, that's so cool. So what's
Yeah.
the level of your Japanese now?
Oh, right now I'm very rusty. Like I can read it just fine, but I won't necessarily understand it. I know some
I have the same problem now. I know, for example,
yeah.
hiragana, but kanji is
Yeah.
another word.
Yeah, like I know some kanji. Like if you were to just drop me into Tokyo, I'd probably be able to get around okay, but I definitely wouldn't be able to have any conversations.
Yeah. I will be okay only if they type everything or write everything in hiragana characters. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I will lost right
Yeah.
away.
Yeah, it's basically like a elementary schooler.
So you are doing modeling as well, as I understood, right?
Yeah.
So what type of modeling?
So I mostly do boudoir, so like lingerie type stuff. Um, sorry, you might hear my cats in the background. But I mostly do boudoir. That's, I'd say, the thing that I get hired for the most. But I also really like to do stuff that's almost like cosplay, um, something that's more creative, artistic, like fantasy type
I see.
stuff.
What's the difference
Yeah.
exactly between cosplay and what you're doing?
So cosplay, I think, I mean, usually you're doing a character from, a show, an anime, a video game. Whereas what I do, it's just kind of my fashion, like my style, kind of just what I think expresses myself the best.
I see. So it's not
Yeah,
necessarily something fixed or a character. But are you
yeah.
interested also for doing a character also as a cosplay?
hmm Yeah, I am.
How many cats,
There's
by the way, do you have?
so I had five, but one
Five
passed away
cats.
over the weekend, so
Oh,
now I
sorry to
have
hear that.
four.
Sorry to hear
The
that. And
one,
what are the names of them?
so this is Thor. He's black and white. He's very friendly. Um, right here is Loki. He's black cat. He's very talkative. And then right here is my oldest cat and also the first cat. This is Kenai. He's in quite a few of my photos.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. I have one other cat that he's hiding right now. So,
So, when was the first time you had your first cat? How old were you?
I was 13 going on 14. It was like right before high school started for me, and I found Kenai. He was a newborn kitten. Like he was covered in blood from just being born, but his mom was nowhere to be seen. So I took him in and I raised him.
Oh, that was nice. And here in the campus of university, we have so many cats. So we got friends with them. There's no need to bring them in the houses. So I'm
Yeah.
just happy with that at the moment.
Yeah, I always like to get friendly with like whatever neighborhood cats there are.
I'm
Make
trying
sure
also
they.
to catch the comments. Everyone are saying hi from Brazil, from
Oh, hello.
UK, and also someone says, ¿Cómo estás? Do you know Spanish also?
I know a little bit because I grew up on the West Coast, and so there are a lot of Spanish-speaking people over there. So you would hear it in passing a lot. And the elementary school I went to, it was kind of a merger with a Spanish immersion school. So there were a lot of people who grew up speaking just as much Spanish as they did English in school. So, you kind of had to learn a little bit.
Yeah, also someone says hi from Turkey, and someone asked how many cats. We already talked about it. She has now 4 cats.
Yeah.
So what's the ideal thing that you are looking for in fashion industry? Is that something that you are looking for as a model? To say, if I reach
Um,
that place, I'm so happy.
I mean, if I could represent one of like some of the brands that I buy from a lot, I think I would be happy. Like that would be like the top for me because not only would I most likely get stuff at a discount, so I'd get more stuff that I like, but I would hopefully be able to make the brand more popular because like in the United States, Japanese brands aren't as popular and I kind of would like to change that because I think that not only is the stuff really fun and different, but it's usually made like in Japan, so you're not supporting as much, fast fashion type stuff.
I see. For example, which brands in the US you would, for example, you would be happy to promote?
In the United States, I think American Eagle or Aerie, both I like. I like their sweaters and I like their undergarments and PJs and stuff a lot.
I see. So hopefully it will happen for you soon. And by the way,
Maybe.
I wanted to ask, is your hair natural?
No, no, I am not a natural redhead.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that, and I'm touched that they think that, and I think it's a compliment on my hairdresser because she does a good job.
So
I'm
what would be your
naturally a
natural color?
blonde.
Oh,
I'm
naturally blonde.
blonde. Yeah.
I see. And yeah, what kind of reaction do you receive from people when they think, for example, you're a redhead?
Um, I mean, a lot of people they think that redheads are. I mean, I'm sure everyone knows the stereotypes that we have short temperature, or that redheads have short tempers, that they have a short fuse, they react a lot to stuff, and it does get annoying because I do face that from time to time while modeling, like the moment I speak up about anything at all, they're like, whoa, look out for the redhead, and it's like, I'm just talking.
I see.
So yeah. And then when people find out that I'm not a natural redhead, I don't know, sometimes they get mad, they feel deceived, and it's like, I never said I was. It's just a color I like.
So what sort of attention do you receive when you have red hair comparing to the times that you have blonde hair?
So there's a lot of people who have like a fetish for redheads, and I think it's a little strange because I've met people, guys, they like blondes. I've met guys who like bright hair colors like pink or blue. But redhead aficionados, they're very passionate, Okay, hold on. All right, there we go. Yeah, they're very passionate. Like they, I mean, I don't know how else to put it other than they really like redheads. They make it their personality. It's the only type of person that they want to date.
I
But
see.
yeah.
And the taste of people are very interesting. For example, for me, I like blondie and red hair as well. But
Yeah.
this is my top two for sure. But
Yeah.
it's very strange. For example, some people don't like specific, for example, blondie or red hair. Have you met people that they hated, for example, redheads?
Um,
They don't express it, of course, but you, for example, feel that that's the case.
yeah, I mean, there are people that think that uh redheads, because I mean, there's the phrase redheaded stepchild, and a lot of people would use that to describe someone who's ugly, who doesn't belong because, they aren't as good as the others. And they, I mean, a lot of people have told me, I mean, I don't normally like redheads, but you're an attractive one. And it's like, people can be very vain. Like, it's a hair color, it's not, someone's entire appearance.
Yes, that's true. And also, I wanted to ask you, in the US, is it insulting to say ginger to a redhead?
Um, Personally, I don't think so because I feel like nowadays it's more used humorously as opposed to like in a bad way. But I do know that it used to be a very like crude term. I think that the times are changing and red hair is definitely more popular, so I think that might have something to do with it.
I see. Do you know
Yeah.
Tim Minchin, the Aussie guy from Australia, a comedian?
Um, I I know of an Australian comedian. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, Tim actually sang a song about gingers, and he said, "Only a ginger can call another ginger ginger."
I mean,
That's yeah.
it might be different in other countries because I know that like socially things are a lot different, like from here to another country, and like what's offensive in one place might not be in another. And but I also haven't personally met a lot of redheaded people. Like I've met maybe a handful over my entire life, and like I think I had one who she was very sensitive about her hair color and she would dye it black and stuff and she didn't just hate being called a ginger, she hated being called a redhead. Like she hated anyone reminding her that she had red hair, but I think that was more like an insecurity as opposed to the word ginger in particular.
I see.
Yeah.
And do you follow any model, or do you have any ideal in modeling that she or he inspires you?
Um, I don't know that there's any models who inspire me, but I do have like some singers and stuff who I really look up to, who really kind of like inspired my aesthetic, gave me an idea of like what kind of stuff I'm into.
I
Um,
see.
yeah.
And do you follow any redheads or gingers?
Mm, Not at the moment, I don't think. I'd have to look through my following list though, because I'm not on Instagram as much as some people may think. Like I really try to stay off the internet when I'm not like actively networking. So I'm probably not following as many people as I could be.
I see. And what do you do beside modeling and video games?
Well, I do sometimes stream. Um, like I sometimes make money from that. I stream myself playing video games. Um, I'm also really into sewing. Like I've been learning how to sew, still very much at the beginner level, but that's been a sort of blossoming hobby for me, and I'm learning how to make clothes and stuff. I've only made a few things, but it's also an expensive hobby. So,
Yeah, but that should be very interesting. Most
yeah.
probably you receive so many messages in social platforms. So,
hmm
what would you say were the most strangest ones?
All right, so I wrote some stuff down here because I wanted to like really kind of pick my brain to try to remember. But so there was one guy who, for a while, he commented on almost every post I made, just talking about my clavicles, like my collarbones, and he was like hyper fixated on that, and he just wouldn't stop talking about how beautiful they were. And it's like, are you a serial killer?
Yeah, very
But
strange.
and then there was a guy who was writing a book, and he had based the main character off of my appearance. And he sent me like an excerpt from that book, and it was just 3 paragraphs of a sex scene
Oh,
involving that character. And I was like, this feels more like a self-insert fan fiction that you're trying to pass off as a book.
yeah.
Um, And then recently there was a person who I don't know who they were, but um, they made an account on a fetish website called FetLife, and they were catfishing using my photos. And they gave this character a personality that's completely different from my own. And they also said that the person was 19, and it's like, I'm touched you think I'm 19. I'm 24. um, There was a guy who messaged me offering to pay me like $300 to clean my shoes with his tongue. Like $300 per pair of shoes. He's willing to pay me, and I was.
Oh my God.
Um, and then there was a guy who sent me quite a few messages offering to be my human slave. He was very detailed about all the stuff he would do if I asked him. And it's like, I'm
Yeah, it
I'm not
seems
looking
so
for a
many
slave.
people are earning money by that to concentrate on fetishes like this. But what would be the boundary for you as a model? What things you wouldn't do for sure as a model?
So I wouldn't do anything that's too explicitly sexual. Like, I've done boudoir, I've done some like partial nudity and implied nudity, but I would never do anything that would be considered pornographic, anything that's too sexual. Because I'm not a fan of like overtly sexual material. I personally think that something that's more elegant and beautiful is more fun to look at, but that's just me. So I wouldn't do anything like that. I definitely wouldn't do anything that's like to the point where it's not professional anymore, like there's no real direction. Because sometimes I've worked with photographers who it seems like they have a concept in mind, and then it just kind of devolves into what seems like their own personal little like fetish project. I don't really want to go too much into detail there, but there's some weird stuff that I've been pressured into doing.
I see, because usually models never know where they go eventually. But
Yeah.
there are some things that they are concrete in your mind. You would say, for example, this is my red line. I won't pass this red line.
Yeah. Yeah. Like extreme nudity, full frontal nudity. I mean, there are photographers who will try to push that boundary. They'll try to like get friendly with you, or they'll wait until you've gotten comfortable with them as if that's going to change anything. And it gets very annoying because it feels like they don't respect me as a person. They see me and what I have to offer as a product, and it's like, sure, you're paying me, but that doesn't mean that you have full authority over everything I'm going to do, you know?
Yeah, I see. The Haunted
Yeah.
Night is saying some interesting things. And also, Marcio said, do you know Portuguese?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I don't know that either, but I really like to communicate with Portuguese, whether either they are in Portugal or Brazil. So
Hmm.
Marcio, unfortunately, not for the moment. And now that you mentioned about photographers, which type of photographers would be ideal to work with?
I find that I get along well with younger photographers, so people who are under 40, because the majority of photographers I've encountered are over 40 years old. And a lot of the times they have really, really, really traditional views on how modeling should work. And they don't like to diversify in, like, they don't like to do anything super dynamic, whereas younger photographers are like, they're very like of the moment, nothing's super concrete, just kind of like go where the wind goes. And so I think that my ideal photographer is someone who can handle a little spontaneity and going away from what our idea is, because usually we'll discuss like a few different ideas or outfits, and I feel like I have more fun when we get away from those ideas.
I see. And also, as you mentioned, those who are respectful, not to push your limits and
Yeah,
respect you as a human, not an object. That's right.
yeah, like I've encountered photographers who, because usually you'll meet up with them and they'll need to see ID just to make sure you're over 18, and they'll usually take a photo of it to, just for liability, and maybe you'll sign a release. But I like it when photographers will, from the get-go, they'll say, so what are you comfortable with and what are you not comfortable with? And just that'll be, the set rules. And so I
Exactly.
think that that's another really good thing that I've seen in the modeling world.
Exactly, because as I understood, photographers usually tend not to ask those questions, but I think it could be very useful so that they will
Yeah.
have more meaningful relation with the models.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
the result for sure will be much natural and better when they are in understanding, of course, between them.
Yeah. Like I can usually tell from the vibe what type of photo shoot it's going to be, because like I can work with people who are creepy, but I need to really stand my ground and be ready to say no over and over again. And it gets exhausting because stuff like that makes a photo shoot take way longer than it needs to. Like a 2 hour photo shoot will turn into like a 4 hour photo shoot because they just won't stop nagging, wanting to do stuff, wanting to try new stuff, and it it gets tiring. That's the type of stuff that makes modeling like really tiring sometimes.
And do you do any projects these days?
I mean, there was one project I helped out on. It was a sort of like fairy tale opera type thing, and it was fun to be a part of that. I've also, not as recently, but I also like had a small part in someone's movie that they were making. It was like an amateur film, not anything big, not anything by Warner Bros. But yeah, that was fun. There are a few projects that I have spoken with photographers about, but that's mostly like once quarantine is over type stuff.
Yeah, I see. And are you interested in acting?
Oh, I've considered it. I need to learn though, because there are some like little tics I have that I feel like wouldn't translate well on screen. So I'm a little scared of acting, but it's definitely something I've considered.
Yeah, I think eventually some models would consider acting, and that would be very meaningful because if they are good at acting as well, they could be well known right away, and you can reach your goal faster. To, for
Yeah.
example, take the brand that you like to have, for example.
Hmm. Yeah, that's the thing with freelance modeling, is that the more you learn how to do, the more marketable you are, because it's better to be able to do stuff competently, like in a variety sense, as opposed to only being good at one thing. Especially, as a freelance model, you don't have nearly as much room to market yourself in. So the more you can do, the better. And acting is definitely way more difficult than it looks. Like with my small part that I had, it was still like it's a whole new language for modeling, in my opinion.
Yes, that's true. For sure, we need courses, especially through my interviews. I even now have more respect for actors. And I
Yeah.
even have more respect for producers because,
Hmm.
as I understood, they have so many responsibilities. And I myself try to make a short film. Even for a short film, I have so many difficulties. So I have so
Yeah.
many respects for artists in many areas, especially after my interviews.
Yeah.
By the way, you
Yeah.
mentioned about that creepy writer who,
Yeah.
and I was thinking some part of his ideas were not bad because when I write something, I think about imaginary characters. Everything starts
Hmm.
from the scratch. But it's not a bad idea to have a face for a character from the beginning. So
Yeah.
that
I
part of
mean,
his idea was interesting for me. But
yeah. It was the drawn out sex scene that really just did it for me. I was like,
yes,
why? I didn't need to read this.
because as a writer, if you do that and you have the permission of the model, then you can even use the picture for the book, and it will be very interesting. This is a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, like he had messaged me before I'd seen anything asking if it was okay to use my likeness. And I said yeah, because I thought that it wasn't going to be anything like that, and then it was, and it was I don't know, it felt weirdly violating.
Yeah, for sure. And you are in Ohio, right?
Hmm.
So, what would you say is different in Ohio to other states in the US?
There's a lot. So, where I'm from on the West Coast, people are a lot more fashion savvy. Like people put more effort into their what they wear, and it's okay to not care, but over here everyone dresses so homogenous. Like it's the same rotation of outfits every year. So when I go out in my stuff that I like to wear, I get stared at because it's so different. And on the West Coast, that stuff is more normalized. So Ohio is a lot more like you have to conform, and it's a lot more Christian. So that's another bit of conformity you have to do. Um, there's also not nearly as much good food over here in Ohio. Like
I see.
there's a couple places I really like, but not as much.
Yeah, because especially foreigners know the US from the movies. And unfortunately, we don't hear a lot from Ohio.
I mean, that's probably a good thing. Um, Yeah, the States is incredibly diverse with what each place has to offer. Like growing up on the West Coast and then going here, it almost feels like two completely different countries. And, I've been to Mexico, I've been to Canada, I've been to Japan. So I've seen how different other countries can be. And I feel like it's almost that different going from one region to the other in the United States.
Yeah, and you
So,
mentioned that you went to Japan and you're very interested in this culture. So,
yeah.
what would you say Japanese culture has, but American don't usually follow that or they don't like it?
Oh, there's a lot of things. I mean, for one thing, there's the whole like Japan is a lot more big on recycling and cleaning and trash in that they have like 6 or 7 different types of trash cans. And depending on what day of the week it is, it's like on this day you can throw this out, on this day you can recycle this. And if you don't follow that, you're seen as almost like bad and irresponsible. Um, I'd say another thing is Japan is very big on being polite. Even if you don't like someone, you treat them nice, and it's when you're alone or you're with people you trust, then you can be mean.
Yeah, it's the
And
Eastern culture, that's true.
yeah, so like if you're a complete if you're incredibly rude to someone in Japan, they'll probably treat you really nice and you'll be like, "Wow, Japanese people are so nice." But as soon as you're gone, they're going to talk all the crap about you.
Yeah, that's true. It's even
Yeah.
worse in Middle East. In Middle East, usually people know how to act in front of others. They're very
Yeah.
nice people. They're very friendly. But if they don't like you, they don't show it, and they are professional with it, and they gossip,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, right after.
Yeah. Yeah, like a lot of people will see Japan and Japanese people like through this really idealized image, but you know they're humans just like everyone else. They just go about things a little bit different. Um, Another thing is that like the whole concept of racism hasn't caught on as much over there. So sometimes a Japanese person will ask you a really bizarre question and you'll be like, "Are you seriously asking me this right now?" And then you realize that, well, certain issues aren't really talked about over there. So they probably they don't mean it in a malicious manner. So sometimes they'll say something that people in the United States will go crazy over. And it's like, but they didn't mean it like that.
Yeah, because in the US they got so sensitive about these things, especially in California and New York, for example. So
Yeah.
for other people are not used to it. So we may say things which consider totally racist in your country,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's not what we mean. We have good intention, for example.
Yeah, like having been to a few different countries, I've learned to have a much more open mind and that, you know, people probably aren't out to get you. They probably aren't as bad as you think they are. And so I've learned to really just kind of like get to know people as opposed to just what they say.
And about Japanese video games or their fantasies, what things are very exciting for you? Which things motivates you to know more and more about them?
Um, I like the storytelling that happens in Japanese games, like Japanese role-playing games, because I feel like they value like a really long drawn out story a lot more than American video games do. And I'm someone who really appreciates a good story, so that kind of thing is important to me. Um, Another thing is that Japanese video games seem to have a high skill ceiling, so you feel more accomplishment beating the game or, you know, beating a high score and stuff. Whereas a lot of American games, it feels like it's just basically a time waster, you know?
Yes, I understand. But you know, in the US or American games in general, we could say that it's not that much boring because everything goes very fast
Yeah.
and you don't have time to get bored. In Japanese games, if you don't like the story, right away you get bored. And that would be the disadvantage of those games.
Yeah, yeah. Like I've had friends who I've tried to get them to play a game that I like, and they're like, "Well, when does it get fun?" Because they're just like they're skipping the story, so to them, it's just a bunch of emptiness. So I understand that everyone has their taste. It's mostly just what I enjoy, you know, what I look for in a game, and so I'm willing to respect that people have their other opinions, but I still have mine too.
I see. And let's do something fun, by the way. We have a challenge on our page
Hmm.
named Crazy Eyebrow. You are the first one who is doing it in 2021. So this is what we are doing. We pull one eyebrow up, one down. Can you do
I can't.
that? You can't at all?
No, I can't.
What
I
happens
can
when you
try.
try? Both of them goes up?
Yeah, they both go up.
I see. This is also one acting exercise. I also
Yeah.
practice it with other actors, and
Hmm.
surprisingly, some of them couldn't do that, and they justify it by saying that we are trying to show our emotions, not our facial expression necessarily.
Yeah, but that's something I've learned in modeling is that whatever you're trying to portray, whether it's happiness or sadness or anger, you need to if you want to do it in front of a camera, you need to like be about 40% more dramatic with it. Otherwise, it's just gonna look like a straight face.
Yes, exactly. It doesn't work if you are yourself, for sure. And it
Hmm.
doesn't work if you do it too much.
Yeah, like when I was in middle school and high school, I was in choir and we got to work with the drama kids a lot. And I learned a little bit of stuff about like warm-ups and stuff and how to really kind of get into it, you know, get into being more animated, more dramatic. And so I do still use some of that stuff for modeling, especially if it's going to be something that's more fantasy oriented where everything's a little bit more a little bit more out there.
I see. And you mentioned about that guy who had a fake page of you, and he
Yeah.
mentioned that you are 19, but it
Yeah.
actually made sense for me because when I wanted to invite you, I was not sure whether you are a teenager or not.
No, I'm 24. I'm turning 25 this July.
Yeah, because I try to have my interviews with adults, at least 18 years old. So I was a little afraid whether, did I ask a 16 years old maybe? I should recheck it maybe.
Go get my mom's permission.
Yeah. Is this profile monitored or something? I was thinking like that. So,
No. No, it's
by the way,
especially, huh?
yeah, if you have any, for example, fashion events in Cyprus, would you consider joining that?
I mean, maybe?
You've never been in Cyprus before, right?
No.
Yeah, that would be really lovely to have more fashion events also here in Cyprus. So, for
Yeah.
example, you would consider it, maybe.
Yeah, I would.
Yes. So,
There's,
one of my challenges here in Cyprus is to find the promoters in all the industries because we have low population and people
mhm.
got so satisfied with their local entertainment. But as a foreigner, because I'm Persian, not Cypriot, so as a
Mhm.
foreigner, I understand that this shouldn't be this way. We should have more international events here.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to do, even for Cypriots, because they were so kind to me during the last 12 years. So I want to do something little in return.
hmm I mean, certainly not while all of this quarantine stuff is happening, but
Of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of places I want to travel to. Um, like so many places, especially in Europe and the Middle East. Like I've always wanted to go to Istanbul. Um,
You've never been there.
no, I've always
Oh,
wanted to go there because I love the architecture. Like Eastern and Middle Eastern architecture is like one of my favorite types of architecture.
yeah. Cyprus is very close to Turkey. So, for example, once a month, I wanted to visit Istanbul, for example,
hmm
because the ticket prices are also very cheap for us. It's like going from one city to another, very cheap for us.
Yeah.
So, as soon as I was planning such events, then COVID happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like starting, like I was in the beginning phases of starting to plan a trip to Japan last year. Like I was starting to figure out my itinerary and stuff and budgeting, and then coronavirus happened.
So, the next one you want to visit again will be Japan.
Yeah, I want to make another visit to Japan because when I went, I was 17. So I feel like I would have a very different experience now that I'm an adult and I can do a lot more stuff like independently.
And how old were you when you were in Japan last time?
17.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it could be totally different
Yeah.
memories this time. Yes, for sure.
Yeah,
So,
like just once I want to go to a Japanese nightclub. I think that would be a lot of fun.
yeah, for sure it should be. Especially, I think the style they have is totally different. You know much better than me, so it should be your paradise there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Rosalie, it was very nice talking with you. Is it right, the pronunciation, Rosalie?
Yeah.
So it was very nice talking with you. Thanks a lot for giving your time. I
hmm
enjoyed talking with you. I could even do it for hours, but I know you have things to do for sure. You
Yeah.
should also take care of your cats.
Yeah, I will. It was a pleasure.
So I wish you luck in your fashion industry, modern industry. I hope someday soon I hear that you are promoting the brand that you love.
I hope so too.
And let me know whenever you would come to Cyprus or Istanbul. That would be lovely also to meet in person someday.
hmm
So have a
Yeah.
wonderful time. And thanks everyone for joining us today. Thanks for sending love. Many people said lovely things about you. It seems that your fans really enjoy following you. So see you, Rosalie. Have a wonderful
See
day.
ya.
Bye
Have a
bye.
nice day.
You
Goodbye.
too. Bye bye.